heart attack. Fast, fatal, hard impact. Past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions. Fact, don't ask, grab reactions. Jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused. Call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose. Pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now. Y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet out. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Minishot here, and now. This simple idea. What if Deku was an Akame gone kill? I've done a concept like this before where I take Deku and drop him into a different world. Where that world, I could completely do whatever I want with the storytelling because it was just that. It was my own custom creation. This one is very different. This one has rules and actually things you have to follow. Now, with that being said, from what you guys can tell of the thumbnail already, this will actually be very different from what some people may expect. But with that being said, let us begin. We'll actually start with Izuku Midoriya. Him and his family, they live in a kingdom. And they live in a small village. They make their money with hunting and gathering. And the nearby forest is very much plentiful. One night, whenever Izuku was a very young boy, he can remember it very vividly. Strange men came to their village and burned it to the ground. Flames bathed everything. And most of the people Deku knew were killed. Now, Deku, he was lucky enough to get out of the village alive. However, he really wishes he wasn't that. Whenever he was outside the village, he tried to get help from some people. However, those people quickly abducted him and sold him off as a slave. Now, after years of harsh labor and dealing with different conditions, along with even being abused and even used as entertainment to fight, he was eventually sold over and over, going through multiple different stages of ownership until you do actually have one day. Izuku, at the very young age of about 15, he was huddled in the corner of a dark basement, and he was just waiting. He knows for a fact that what the man upstairs was talking about is going to happen. There is going to be a party and he is going to be made into another form of entertainment. If he doesn't do what they say, he won't eat. He won't drink water, and he'll be left in the cold once again. There's even right now. He's curled up into a ball on as much hay as he can. He's tried to start a fire down here before, but that doesn't work. Even then, he can't feel his fingertips. He fears that if this goes on any longer, he might have to get them cut off, especially if they turn blue. And right now, he is just trying to breathe into his shirt as much warmth as he can, as he actually starts to hear commotion. And he actually smells something. He waits down here for about an hour. He can't run. The keys, he doesn't know where they're kept. And right now, all he can really do is hear what's going on. He hears alarms blaring, and he hears guards just going completely crazy. And there's even the fact that he doesn't even hear the occasional scream every now and then. As after the chaos has all died down, you do actually have where somebody just come walking downstairs. And Deku, he doesn't even really bother to look up. Just putting his head down to his knees and thinking. The people who must have come here tonight, they must have raided this place to get money, right? Mercenaries? Well, he's glad that they're all dead. But now there's the problem with him. They're just going to take him, send him back to the markets. If he goes back there one more time, he might not be seen as useful. And if he's lucky enough, he might actually be killed. he might be able to see his mother and father again. And that small little thought in the back of his mind, it does at least give him some comfort. It doesn't feel warm though. And whenever Deku, he actually does look up whenever he does hear the keys jingle, he is surprised whenever his eyes do meet with somebody. A woman with, well, something on her arm. As the door does swing open, Deku, he doesn't even move. The woman, she does look down at him, and she does at least try to ask if he's alright. And Deku, he doesn't even try to respond. He just goes back to looking down. He knows already that he's going to die. He knows that he's just going to be forced back into this life again. So why hold out any hope? Now, Deku does think that, as he actually just feels something warm that almost does feel like it burns his skin. It just lands on him. In his vision, it gets dark. Now, this is actually where the woman, she does actually go to lean down, going to wrap a blanket around Izuku and actually go to pick him up. Her being very surprised. He was somewhat large, but he was so light. And she does at least inform him that they're night raid, and that right now, Deku is being set free. And Deku, he tries to just process those words, but he can't. There's the warmth he feels, and, well, he doesn't know. A warm embrace, and words of encouragement. They're so foreign to him. He just wraps his arms around her and just holds on. And the woman, she knows exactly why he's doing that. She tries to ask him his name, but he doesn't say a word, as he's taken away. Now, we do have years later, where Deku, yeah, right now he's competing in a tournament. And he actually has shown his power. Now, this tournament, he was told to participate. Najinda, the woman he does consider to be his mother right now, she raised him to be a very, very integral part of Night Raid. She taught him everything he does know. And right now, he's doing a bit of espionage. He's going undercover. The tournament, you were supposed to be able to show how powerful you are. And the prize for it would be quite simple. Along with that, the idea of winning a tournament in front of General Esdeath, the woman who is a very large target to Night Raid, if he does show that he does have good prowess, and he's very much enough, he might actually be able to get into her ranks, learn more about her inner circle, and at least focus there. And you do actually have Deku, who, after knocking away his final opponent, he does stand there in the ring. And he does just go to bring up his hand and wipe the sweat from his head. As the sweat goes flying and Deku's hair does move, Deku going to face towards General Esdeath, as he does just stare at her with confidence in his eyes. And she just stares back, her face unchanged, until Deku, he does get to turn his head back towards his opponent. And as this, she actually is going to bring up her hand and somewhat cover her mouth. Now, he's the one. He's perfect. Power, confidence, strength to back it up. There was that other one, the one with brown hair. But then there's him. He's closer in power. He's closer. She doesn't see him as someone to look down upon. The other one, yes, he's, well, something else, but this one, he's someone that she can truly see as an equal, and she likes that. He's strong, confident, powerful. All he needs is an Imperial arms. And then, these two, they can do anything. They can help destroy Night Raid. And, possibly, one day in the future, they can retire. together. That's what Esdeath is currently thinking. Now, she is going to stand up and go to walk down the stairs. As she is just trying to think, Deku turning his head to look towards her. As he somewhat just doesn't move, Deku walking that direction towards the edge of the ring and standing there, going to bring his hands upwards and behind him. And the stance he does take up does actually somewhat surprise Esdeath. He's taking the stance of somebody who's clearly at least been in a military. And whenever she actually does walk up towards him, she just stares directly at him, her moving her head up to ask exactly who he is. And Deku, he does at least give her his name and inform her that he came here today because he was very curious about many things. Along with that, Deku continuing on. As she is actually going to bring her hand up and go to bring her hand directly onto Deku's chest, informing him that he has won. Her actually going to roll her finger in somewhat of a circle. As Deku does somewhat look down and notice that. Her staring up at him as Deku does notice that her cheeks do appear to be a little bit red. Now, this does somewhat catch Deku off guard. He didn't realize that she seemed, well, not as, crazy as many people made her out to be. But right now, he does just stare directly at her. Her informing him that she is going to be giving him a special permission. Her actually going to bring up the collar. Before she can really do anything, you do actually for Deku, he does get to grab her by her wrist. The moment he saw the collar and the chain. The moment that actually has happened, she actually doesn't look directly at him. And Deku, he actually does have his confident face somewhat turned to a bit of rage. As he actually has to go to somewhat grip down a bit harder, and she has actually go to drop the collar. Now, Esdeath, she actually is very annoyed by this. However, she does understand where Deku may be coming from. Now, she actually doesn't go to try and retaliate, simply informing Deku to let go of her immediately. Because of her rank and who she is, he should be aware of exactly her reputation. And Deku, he does just stare directly at her. As she actually does go to bring up her other hand and create some ice. Her creating a spike as Deku does go to bring up his other hand. And there actually is where she is going to bring the ice up to his throat, and Deku actually is going to bring up two of his fingers directly up towards hers. And everybody at this stadium, they fall quiet. As Esdeath, she actually is going to look down towards Deku's hand, seeing that his hand is covered in flames. And Deku actually is going to look towards Esdeath, as she is holding a icicle pointed directly at his throat. And Esdeath, she's very surprised, as she is going to look down towards Deku's chest, being able to see directly under his shirt by his collarbone the strange symbol by the necklace. It's poking out just right there. And Deku, he actually is going to look down towards Esdeath, as she has asked if he is in possession of an Imperial Arms. Quite an observation, General. Yes, I am. Now, Esdeath, she's very suspicious of this. Deku won, but he was using an Imperial Arms. And she quickly does somewhat become skeptical. She thinks that he may be a weakling, resorting to cheating. As she actually does go to quickly pull her hand away from Deku's grip and go to step backwards, informing him that if he were to have used that during this competition, then he is greatly, disadvantaged. And that she will not tolerate his Deku actually going to say something, cutting her off immediately, stepping forwards and telling her that he was not using his Imperial Arms during the competition. In fact, he did that all with his natural power. And the reason why he's come into possession of this Imperial Arms is because he killed somebody from Night Raid and stole it from them. Now, Esdeath is very surprised. This Imperial Arms she hasn't heard of before. She's only aware of the current existing ones. And even then, some of those, they break, they shatter, they aren't maintainable. That number keeps going down. But from what she just heard from Deku, he was able to beat somebody with an Imperial Arms. And that respect she quickly had fading for him does somewhat almost boost and jump. But then there's that simple mention. Deku killed somebody from Night Raid. And she actually is a bit more curious. Her going to reach out and go to grab Deku, grabbing him by his arm, informing him that they will now talk in private. Especially since Deku just said something she wants to speak to him about. Now, everybody just watches as that basically just does drag Deku away. And Deku plays along, deciding that right now what he just said was enough to garner her attention. So, he'll play along for now. As we actually do have, let's just say, in the private, I don't remember if it was a palace or a mansion wherever she has her base of operations, but it's right there. She takes Deku there, and the two are currently sitting down at a table, and they're both talking. Esdeath wants to understand how Deku he encountered Night Raid, and Deku he does at least express false stories, along with even giving Esdeath some false information. Now, it's very surprising to her. From what she can see from Deku's experience and even the knowledge he does have, his power, along with even his information, Deku is a pain in the side of Night Raid, and he even has taken down some of their bases before in the past. It's quite interesting. And right now she does at least want to test Deku, as she does even ask about his Imperial Arms. Deku going to stand is actually just going to bring up his hands to unbutton his shirt. Esdeath trying her best to pay attention to the Imperial Arms at hand, as Deku he at least does take it off. Now, she does see the strange symbol swirling around Deku's chest, as she does try to at least be a bit more inquisitive about it, asking about that symbol, and Deku he does at least express it. It's the Spiral of Flames. That's at least what he does call it. The name of this Imperial Arms has been forgotten, and right now, he is the current bearer of it. What he had to do was not easy, and trying to at least handle the mental fortitude for it took immense training. And even then, it's very much powerful, and the training was well worth it for the power he garnered from it. Now, as that she does at least try to relate, expressing to Deku that her Imperial Arms was very similar. And the two, they actually face off in the courtyard. Many people watching as the general, she does face off against the man who won the tournament. And the two, they do rush at each other, as Deku he does show that his Imperial Arms is nothing to laugh at. And Esdeath, she does actually at least show people why she is who she is. Now, it's quite interesting. People are watching two Imperial Arms that were designed to fight one another. They're just going at it, blow for blow, almost as if made to be that way. Anytime their attacks encounter each other, a blast of just mist is set off. And even then, whenever Esdeath gets more serious, and so does Deku, she goes to blast a giant iceberg directly at Deku, as Deku is going to bring up his hands. A giant ball of flames being made behind him, as Deku he immediately does go to jump to the right, going to grab the large ball and immediately go to throw it as hard as he can. As whenever he does go to do that, he actually is going to set off a large blast in that direction as well. And it's very surprising to her. The two their blast does encounter in midair, and there actually is whenever Deku's blast punches straight through the iceberg, as that's actually going to swing her blade and directly go to deflect that attack. As soon as she does actually do that, Deku, his attack is right behind it. Her going to create something to block the attack. And the moment she actually does do that, the attacks do collide. Mist being formed as Deku he does get ready. He's on the defensive. He knows that her attack is going to come at him. And right now, this is a good opportunity. If he can take her out here, it would be good. but there's also the repercussions of that action. If he kills Esdeath here, they could lose a lot of vital information he can get from staying undercover. That would risk a lot. And right now, he believes that from what his mother has told him, staying undercover right now would be best. Now, as Deku is actually thinking that whenever the mist does clear, there's nobody there. And Deku, he immediately goes to get on guard. As you actually have where somebody does press up behind him, and a sword is put to his throat. As Esdeath does at least inform Deku that he's lost. And Deku does could do one simple thing. He goes to bring his hands up. I see. Well then, it does show that you are very much earning of your title, General Esdeath. Please. That will just be Esdeath to you. Her whispering that in Deku's ear. As she actually is going to do one simple thing. She is going to at least drop her sword. And while the mist is still there, she actually is going to wrap her arms around Deku, informing him that he is an equal, and that she does have very much respect for him. Now, she does say something else. As the smoke does then clear, and everybody they can at least see General Esdeath staying there with her sword. It's pointed directly at Deku's throat, as he does still have his hands up. Now, you do actually have where a member of her team, they do walk up, and ask the general if this man is a threat. Her turning and going to bring down her sword, as she just put her back to Deku, informing the person that no. In fact, this is the newest member of their team. She was just testing his abilities. And right now, she can say for certain he will be a valuable asset. And that Night Raid, they actually have been worrying about him for years. Now, everybody they do hear about that statement, them turning to see Deku. He's a very well-built man. Along with that, he possesses a symbol similar to Esdeath, and everybody they immediately realize he wields an Imperial arms. Now, with that being said, you do actually have where Deku he does get a quarters and everything set up. As later that night, whenever he is resting, he's trying to go over all the information. Him lying in a bed and trying to think. This place is a palace. Compared to his room at Night Raid, this place is 5 to 10 times that size. He has a bath. He has a large window with a balcony. And everything he could want. Esdeath, she and her squad, they are clearly very well equipped. They are very well maintained. And then that is actually something that Deku does note down mentally. If they are to take down the entire squad, they have to find a way. Ambush tactics, maybe. Lead them into traps. But even then, there is something wrong with that. Deku going to close his eyes as his hands are behind his head. I'm just trying to think. As Deku he just starts to drift off to sleep. Now, you do actually have where some time does pass. And you do actually have where Deku, while he's lying in bed, he does start to feel something. Now, as Deku is half asleep, he actually does hear a slight sound. And the moment he actually does feel something on top of him, he immediately springs into action. As Deku, he's able to grab onto this thing and immediately go to flip them directly over. As Deku, he's currently supposed to be on top of this threat, supposedly. He does actually somewhat wait. He's very tired, and his eyes do take some time to readjust. As the attacker or assailant, as he thought it was Esdeath? And Deku is very surprised. He currently just pinned her down, and she's just staring up at him surprised, talking about how he does seem to appear to have good reflexes. What are you doing in here? I see. Well, that's quite simple. I have taken quite a liking to you. So you sneak into my room without your garments? Hmm. Well, supposedly so. And where's the fun in that? Hmm. Miss Esdeath, if that even is your real name, I don't think you understand. I know people like you. If you're trying to trick me, or quite simply just learn more about me, I would be more willing to answer your questions. No, that's not the case. I do not see it that way. This is no attempt to try and see if you are trustworthy. This is no attempt to see if you are a spy. This is, in fact, what it may seem like an attempt at romance, comfort. Am I really hearing those words from the famous General Esdeath? From her mouth? Believe what you will, but I have taken a liking to you. You have a very strange way of showing it, General. Well, that is indeed true. I'm curious. Do you happen to feel the same way? Hmm. General, Esdeath, romantic feelings are not something I've had time for. I've had to survive my whole life. I've had to fight, claw my way out from nothing. Hell, I've had to kill just to stay alive and just to eat. Every attempt I've had to stay warm. Hell, you ever freeze so cold, the only thing keeping you warm is your breath? And even then, that burns your skin the moment it touches it. Because that's what my Imperial Arms feels like every time I turn it on. I still feel like that same kid in a jail cell. My, you sound very hurt. Every piece needs comfort. Well, you've shared a bit with me. I believe I should share a bit with you. While I was younger, my village was destroyed, and I've had to fight to survive. I was taught how to kill. My people value strength, and I value yours. That's why I've taken a shine to you. It's very interesting, though. What do you plan to do next? Esdeath, I can tell when someone's lying to me. That's not what really happened to you, is it? It was a half-truth. Your people did die. Not because they were weak. The forces were overwhelming, weren't they? Now, Deku, he does watch Esdeath closely. Her firm expression, the confidence, the strength, all of it almost in an instant. It seems to just waver and move. The eye contact she was making with Deku when she spoke, it broke whenever he opened his mouth and calling her a liar. And she just faces away from him for a second. And Deku, he does actually gotta do one thing. He lets go of Esdeath as he's gonna bring himself backwards. So I'm going to lean upwards onto his knees. Now, Esdeath, she just stare at Deku for a second. As she just go to sit upwards. How? How? Because the skill I've learned. What actually happened to you when you were younger? It can't be as simple as that. That's your coping mechanism, isn't it? They were weak, so they died. You can't fool me. I can see right through you, General. Now, Deku's almost caught off guard. Whenever the famous Esdeath, her demeanor completely changes. and she actually doesn't go to bring up her hands to cover her eyes. She expressed to Deku that no one's been able to see through that before, and that people would believe that since he's the only one left of her people. There's nobody else left to dispute that story. The men who burned her home, she killed them the moment she gained her Imperial arms. She had to be taught how to deal with things. And that she was a scared little girl when it all happened. While she could fight and survive, she was smart enough to know when to run. And she had to run from her home to survive. She hates herself for it. But even then, she feels like if she was there, she could have saved her family. And even then, would it have been worth it? Die alongside your family? Or run like a coward and survive? She talks about and expresses how revenge, it did make her feel better. But even then, she didn't know how else to feel. It didn't bring them back. All it did was just give her one less reason to keep going. Now, Deku, he does understand what she's saying, as she does continue on with her thoughts. Before Deku, he finally does at least cut her off. And he does at least say a few things. Now, Deku, he sort of just drops his act. He doesn't have that confidence, that aura around him no more that Esdeath she saw. And right now, the two, they're doing something that they haven't really done before. They're expressing their real selves. Deku is telling Esdeath that he knows what it's like. Her going to look towards him. What are you talking about? My village. The place I called home. I was there when it happened. It was burned to the ground. My father and his friends, everybody I ever met, they took up arms. They tried to fight. They were all killed. My father, the moment he knew they were outnumbered, he told me to run. He expressed to me that they were all going to die. He knew it would be very challenging, but if I were to run, I could get help. They were going to try and hold out for as long as possible. It's just the people who I came across, the people who I begged for help, I pleaded for, they didn't listen to me. I learned a week later my family, my father, they held their position for 4 days waiting for my help, waiting for me to show up with the army on my back, only to die. My father didn't die like a coward. And even then, the lessons I learned after that, I was forced to kill to survive. Fight, train, entertain, sneaky, stealthily, do whatever I could. Most of my skills that I feel that I have, I've been using them for years to stay alive. It was only after one day I was able to escape. A very, very nice lady. I remember she cradled me in her arms. It was her warmth that felt different. It's the only warmth that didn't burn my skin or just feel unnatural. It was comfort. And even then, I found the men who killed my family. I didn't make it easy for them. I enjoyed what I did to them, because I sure hell know they had it coming. I expressed to the leader, moments before I took his tongue, who I was and what I was there for. And he looked terrified, like he was seeing a ghost. So, whenever I tell you, Esdeath, I know what you feel. The only reason why I carried on was because I still want to get back at the slavers. I need to find them. But it's something that everyone has to deal with. I'm, well, unhinged myself. When I believe in something good enough, when I believe in something hard enough, I will fight, even if it means my death. So let me tell you, I understand. Now, as then she's just sort of sitting there stunned, and she doesn't know what to say. As she does this look at Deku, her actually just lunging forwards into his arms, going to wrap herself around him and inform him that she can't believe it. She can't believe it. And both of the two, they are thinking. They found somebody who knows. They found someone who understands. They know. They have the similar experience. Where Esdeath ran from fear, Deku ran because he was told. He would have gladly stayed there and fought and laid down his life with his family. Well, Esdeath, she wouldn't have. She was too scared to do so. Now, it's very intriguing. And there actually is where Deku, he does realize something. Right now, what's going on, it compromises his mission. Especially because he doesn't want to kill Esdeath anymore. He doesn't know what to really say to her. He's Night Raid, and she works with the army. If she finds out who he is, she could kill him. And Deku, he needs to take her out in order to ensure their mission. But he can't. He's fallen for the enemy. And that is a very big problem. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed that. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.